Hello and welcome to the Big 12 Mafia Show, part of the College Football Mafia Network. I'm your host, Nathan Bomber Brown. With me are some familiar faces for sure. We've got Immaculate is back in the house, giving us some analysis on all the legal things that have happened in the last, 5 days. We have Ute, who's come in a little bit late, so I couldn't get his picture where it was supposed to be. And then we got Moen. And Moen is dressed as
Dressed as Moen. This is
okay.
what I wear.
He came
This is
in
every
with,
day.
Looking good,
he
Moen.
came in his street gear. That's what we like to see. Well, I appreciate everybody being here. We know you're probably tired. I know some of our panel are extremely tired covering all this legal stuff. Especially today was just ridiculous. 7 or 8 hours of coverage.
It's a marathon.
It was a lot of fun. I watched on Greg's show, and he did a pretty good job, I thought, considering all the breaks and delays and everything. Anyway, I want to thank everybody for being here tonight. Tonight's going to be a bit of a special show. We are going to do more analysis than anything else. We'll talk a little bit, but it's going to be let's try to find out what actually happened today, and for that matter, what happened last week, and see where we go from here. So I am going to encourage everybody, if you want to be a part of the show, feel free to leave a comment. Super chats always get answered, so those will come through and make sure we'll get to those. And then members, I prefer the member comments over just regular non-member comments in the chat. Thank you everybody for being here tonight. It's Tuesday night. We welcome everybody in on the East Coast, and we're probably about an hour through. We'll probably get some more people in. I am going to caution everybody, we're going to go 90 minutes tonight. 90 minutes. We don't want to be too tired at the end of the day. So we're going to hit it hard and heavy, and hopefully we can get to a lot of the topics that you're looking for. So I just want to make sure everybody knew about that. Make sure you subscribe to the channel on YouTube. Make sure you follow us all on Twitter. And make sure you especially turn on your notifications so that you know when we're on, both YouTube and Twitter, and just be part of the group here. Here's a video on how to become a member if you're interested in that.
Want to become a member of the College Football Mafia family? Simply select the Join button from our homepage. There are several options with their own unique benefits to choose from. You can also set yourself to auto-accept gifted membership by selecting the gift settings options as shown.
Really quick, we've already got a super chat out of the gate, so I'm just going to hit that right away. Lonnie Johansson for $2. He's also a member. Says, "Hi guys, how are you doing tonight? P.S. Go BYU and UU." So it's somebody that likes both me and you. Anyway, thank you, Lonnie. Really appreciate your super chat. And again, if anybody else wants to join Lonnie in a super chat, just hit that button at the bottom of the page with the $sign, and that'll set you up on how to do that. If we get any gifted memberships, we'll also go through those as well once they pop up. All right, let's just really quick say hi to a few people that were here way early, and I mean way early. Buckshot Kid has been waiting 4 hours. Joaquin Morales is here. Nathan Campbell says, "Hi, guys." Timothy Green says, "Let's get ready for another informative and great show full of content." He's got football, basketball, and explosion. I will say that I haven't looked at the college basketball poll thing yet that we ran, but as soon as I do, whoever won that, you'll be getting a special gift from us, and I'll be contacting you on that. If you did win and you know it, send me a DM on Twitter, and we'll take care of that.
I won, Nate.
You don't get the thing.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
I did win.
I believe you.
I won with a 99.8 percentile. So
you cheated. Did you pick after all the games were over? That's crazy. Did you win $1 million on ESPN?
No, that's only if you fill out 25 brackets. I couldn't bring myself.
25?
What?
Yeah, if you read the rules, that's what it is. You got to fill out.
Oh, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Let's get to some more shout outs. Sergeant Pickles is here. He's one of our creators. We appreciate him being on the show. He had a great show last night. If you didn't catch it, Big West Mafia, Monday nights, 8 Eastern. Check us out in our library, and you can watch his show that he did last night. Jan Holk is here. Rock Chalk 94 is here. I'm sorry, don't have time to read all these comments, guys. I apologize. We just got a lot to get through. Glenn Lumen, morning and from the Philippines. He and Jan Holk are getting us. We are literally around the dial on the earth. We go from one side to the other for all of our international coverage. Let's see here. Nathan Campbell says, "Hi, Bomber. Immaculate. Sergeant Pickles, Moen, Wild Ute, Becky, go Husky." All right. I like their shout outs. Daniel Gygax says, hi, everyone. Mr. Ed Wayner in the house, a newly minted member, I believe, says, howdy, like number 7. Hope everyone is well. Let's see here. We'll get to a few more. Oh, Daniel Kopcha right here says, sure seems like it's heading that way with dueling lawsuits in Florida and North Carolina in progress. Ute has that question, so I know we're going to get to that. Between FSU and the Mafia ACC, excuse me, dueling lawsuits in the Carolinas between Clemson and I guess he's talking about North Carolina. Would that be who he's talking about there? Battle of the Clemsons, or sorry, of the Carolinas? I just want to make sure I get that
He's just
right.
talking about the ACC in general.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Antoine Code says, speaking of UConn, Dr. Crow needs to hire the UConn AD. Okay, you guys got 90 seconds. Talk about UConn's dominance last night. 2 years in a row, they have been amazing.
They're the best basketball program by far in the nation, not even close. UConn is the premier basketball program. So kudos to UConn. They're going to keep ripping off titles likely because their infrastructure is that way. They spend more money on basketball than football at that school, and that is their priority. And that's great for UConn. They like it that way. They want to be in the Big East, and that's just where they're going to be. And I think they're okay with that too. So congrats on that for the Huskies. Wouldn't anticipate them moving to any other conference like the Big 12 or the ACC anytime in the near future. But seriously, they put together a dang good basketball program, and they love their basketball up there. So kudos to the Huskies.
Anybody else?
They were clearly the best team. I mean, they tried to sabotage them with the airplane, right? But
right, that was nuts too.
They were a little flat in that first half against Alabama, but that was due to just the biological clocks, everything being off. And second half, they got their stuff together and crushed them. And then I would definitely say I think Purdue is the second best team in the country, and they got handled. There was at some point in time, I think about halfway through, I was like, UConn's winning this. This is almost like a team that shouldn't even be in this tournament.
Right.
It wasn't. That's a super team. That's really what that is.
I agree. And they have the largest NIL for basketball.
And that's the future.
So
I've talked about that with you guys. That is the future of basketball. That's what you're looking with the Arkansas thing, them saying they're going to throw $5 million. That's $1 million a starter.
Yeah.
Like there's your team. Like it's that simple in basketball.
Yeah.
And you look at the money that they can get. I mean, you're talking, if you make it all the way through this thing, you're getting what? 20 million coming to your
lot.
And if you're like a UConn in the Big East, you can probably work a deal to where you're getting a Gonzaga deal. Like those are the that are going to come up when if you can get like 75% of all the unit money coming to you, and just go hog wild in basketball. Forget football. Jesus, it's getting nuts.
What about shutting the football program completely down?
If you're UConn, you got to think about it.
I would.
They're $20 million in debt, and if they didn't have that, where are they right now?
Rolling in it.
Just
Moen? You were going to say
think
something?
the best two teams won. South Carolina was clearly the best team.
Right.
And
it's a super
Connecticut
team too.
was clearly the best team. Yeah. That's the problem with Purdue, and I think Iowa to an extent. You have one player that's basically running everything. 5 good players are better than one great player. And UConn really handled Zach Edey. I was surprised. He wasn't getting the shots to roll in the basket, but I was surprised at how well they handled him because he'd been dominating the entire tournament.
Thank you for that comment. I'm glad. I didn't want to forget about it, but a lot of news today, and UConn unfortunately was overshadowed. The timing could not have been worse for that program for the afterglow of winning a national championship. It's really sad in my opinion. But a few more shout outs. We got Expedition Greg's in the house. Congo says, "What's up, gang?" Devil Frog, the original Mafia member, says, "Leave the gun, take the cannoli." that's a good
I always take the cannoli.
Take the cannoli. All I could think about, Illini Ted, a member, says all I could think about with that FSU lawyer was Mafia, let him cook. Can we get a sounder?
As soon as I find it, there we go.
Okay, that's all right.
Let him cook. Let him cook now. Let him cook. I said, let him cook.
I love
He
it.
was too.
Rock and Rant, another one of our contributors, says, "What a day!" I know he was following in Immaculate's footsteps there, trying to track all the coverage. That was really hard to work today. If you were at all interested, Shonsky, he and I finally went to lunch, so I don't want to hear any more about that. We went to lunch today and had a good time, had a good conversation. We'll have to do it again. We're going to get you in on that, I promise.
As long as we talk about Utah football, it'll be what you
we talked about, actually, we actually talked a lot of Utah football. Joe Z says, at one point, Cooper asked if the 130 million million gets FSU out with no strings attached. The ACC attorney responded, yes. Let's talk about that really. What is that? That yes was just for the one thing, right? He wasn't talking about the ESPN contract.
He was talking about the exit fee. Like the exit fee is like 120, something like that. He was like, yeah, that's what to get out. And then he went in further about, well, this is how the Gore situation, ESPN might sell the rights. Like he was just treating it like it was a different situation. Like the only thing where there's like a direct pay, get out, that's the exit fee. So there was a lot of people touching on this, and people like, oh my God, that's all we got to pay to get out. It's like,
no,
hold on.
Yeah, they're not following the whole track. Donnie McNerney, another membership. He gifted a College Football Mafia membership out there. Who'd that go to, Moen?
I went to your friend Devil Frog.
Devil Frog. He's our friend, Devil Frog, and that's great. Nobody deserves one more than he. Really quick, I'm going to show you what everybody gets when they join and become a member. Let me put that comment down. Thank you very much for the membership, Donnie. Basically, these are our short videos, and some of them come locked. In other words, they're not released. They go to members only, similar to, what's this one right here?
Oh my gosh, this is Louisville, man. Louisville to the Big 12. Seriously, there's a heart around that Louisville Cardinal because it's just a perfect marriage and a perfect fit, y'all. So if you're a member, please check that video out. It's actually kind of shocking, actually, some of the information in that. So it's a must watch. We all kind of knew that anyway, but seriously, there is a heart around that Cardinal for a reason. You got to watch it.
Couple things I want to shout out to everybody. These ones that are marked green, members only, those you have to be a member of the channel to watch. They usually are locked up for about 2 weeks. Moen Rants has got another week to go, right, Moen?
No, it's got 2 days to go.
2 days. Okay, 2 days, Moen Rants will be out. But this is what you get with membership. It's not just, us preferring to see you and read your comments. It's all about these other things that we're actually putting out there. And I don't want anybody to think that your money's being wasted if you don't see a day-to-day show. Ryan Willie for $5, a super chat right off the top. Okay, I have to disagree with the Godfather. I don't see NC State going to the SEC or Miami to the Big. UNC isn't taking little brother to SEC. All right, you.
Oh my gosh. All right. Okay. I during lunch today actually I made some artwork about this, guys. I didn't even want to share it, but this is so good, Ryan. But I'm going to have to share it. So give me a second. Go to Immaculate to opine on this for a second.
Okay. What do you think?
Can I play the sounder first?
Please go ahead.
Okay. It's an evil badger. He needs his evil laugh.
Oh, I love it. Go ahead, Immaculate.
Well, let's see. I half in agreement with Ryan and half in agreement with Greg. How about that?
Okay.
I do think North Carolina State will go to the SEC. It's not because SEC is like, we want North Carolina State. It's more like the Board of Governors is saying, you're taking them, or we're going to sit here until things get really hot, and then you're taking them. There's not enough time for the SEC or ESPN or anyone to force the Board of Governors' hand. So I think in the end, North Carolina State will go with North Carolina to the SEC. Now, I have my own thoughts on Miami and where they're going. It doesn't make sense for them to go to the Big, though. Like, that's a logical theory scenario. So I think it's very possible that they go to the Big Ten. It's not what I'm seeing. But I don't see anything wrong with Greg's analysis on it, though.
All right, I saw you posted something down there below me. Do you want to actually pop that up?
I'll pull it up right here, guys. I have too much
go
fun
ahead.
doing this stuff. I'm such a nerd here.
Go ahead.
All right, this is what I call the Wolf Pack backpack right here. So you can see.
Original. That's original.
This is original, designed a few hours ago here, but You've got your UNC Tar Heel right there with his gear on, looking strong in football shape, looking right at that SEC logo and all the money. Then lo and behold, look at the Wolfpack up top in the backpack. And then in the background there is the judicial system of the North Carolina and the ACC's Golden Tower, their White Tower in the very back. So that's the little bit of a illustration of the Wolfpack backpack. And basically, Greg's right about a lot of things. Like he really is, and like he's nails about almost everything. I disagree with it too. In this case, I just don't think that North Carolina and North Carolina State and a combo bring enough value as a pair to go to the SEC. I just don't see that. So I don't see NC State getting into the Power Two. Going to be a great Big 12 prospect, but I just don't see the scenario where you've got that wolf on the back of that Tar Heel really working out in the SEC.
Very good. Do you want to? Anybody else want to say something about that before we move to these gift memberships?
Yeah,
It's a great picture.
That Tar Heel is definitely on something. You do not get muscles like that naturally.
Hey, look. He
I was
went
say
to
that's a beefy ram right there.
the Barry Bonds school of bulking up, I think.
Definitely.
All right, Mo, and here you go. Bringing it up. Go for it.
All right, Bill G has gifted 5 memberships.
By the way, thank you, Bill.
Thank you
very
Bill
much.
G. We'll give you a little clapping here. And those memberships went to Nathan Campbell, Tempest, Sheep, and Wolf's Clothing. Wow, imagine that. That's G
Timing.
Brew, Dad
Timing.
Mac. You were all gifted memberships by Bill G. After the show, make sure you go over there to watch the Wild Ute University Louisville video. And if you're there in the chat, make sure you thank Bill G. Bill G, we appreciate it, brother. Keeping the lights on over here.
I didn't say how to get to these videos from the home button where you can join and become a member. You just hit the videos tab and all the videos are here for you. Really easy to get to, easy navigation. So I was going to do that before and I neglected to. Bill, thank you so much for that, man. Just so everybody knows, we gift memberships here and then we expect other people to pay it forward. If you receive a gift, why not give a gift to somebody else? It's pretty simple. It's not real expensive, and it allows everybody to go in and look at the library. It's just something we try to encourage. Obviously, there's no requirement. All right. I think there's just too many other comments. I can't get to all of them, so we're going to cut it off there. Okay. To start off with, since we've been a couple weeks without Immaculate, and he's been on sabbatical for a little while, I'd like to get your feedback immediately of the major differences between the way the North Carolina judge handled his proceeding and this one today that was extraordinary.
Oof, where to start? This is like a circular. Well, first off, the North Carolina judge and the Florida judge are going to be operating on different sets of laws. Mostly similar, but they're different. 2 different states. They operate on those state laws. So you can see some differences, maybe inconsistencies between the two, and you might think one has to be bad and the other is good, when that's not necessarily the case. They're operating on different law systems. The North Carolina judge is going to be going based upon North Carolina law. He says he takes into account, Florida's sunshine laws and all that, but that's not really what binds him. So we've got 2 different legal systems going on here and 2 very different situations. Now, also, what we found out today was that the judge here in Florida has quite the past as an attorney, including as a mediator. I think he said something like over 10 years. So mediation is in his blood. And there was actually a lawyer who was in the chat with us today while we were over at Greg's, and he has actually been in court with this judge, and his, I guess you'd say, testimony is that this guy very much approaches it as if, mediation is a thing. He pushes it. So interestingly enough, this situation and all the feedback he gave, there's a lot of talk about mediation and settlement talks. So with this kind of split notion between the 2 states, that might be where we're going. But just for people to think about that, with the 2 different venues, 2 different sets of laws, 2 different states, it's entirely possible to get 2 different outcomes, which is what we had happen.
Not unexpected, right?
I mean, honestly, I thought that I thought this waking up today he was probably going to pass on a bunch of this, just because now of the Clemson situation in South Carolina, and he did not. I mean, there was not one single thing that one motion from the ACC that it looks like he's going to pass. It's all being denied. So this is really kind of a standoff right here. I don't know. I'm sure someone could find an example of a similar thing like this in the past. This is all new to me. We're seeing two different state jurisdictions kind of going at each other right now.
Really quick before we get to go ahead. I was going to do the gift memberships. You want me to do that or after?
Yeah, go ahead. Do it.
Okay. Really quick. We got some memberships. Mike Smith is a new member. Thank you very much, Mike, for joining us. We appreciate it. You've been around here a long time. And then Mowing After Dark. Mowing After Dark gifted one College Football Mafia membership. Who got that one?
That went to Kerry Go Knowles, and I did that for Nathan Campbell. So.
Okay. Thank you
There
very
you go,
much.
Nathan Campbell. I paid it forward for you.
There you go. And Kerry Go Knowles obviously really involved in this social media and YouTube universe. We love Kerry. Thank you for being here, Kerry. Hope you enjoy that. Get over there and watch those videos when the show's over. All right, you go ahead.
Yeah, so Immaculate, just to kind of bounce that back and forth. So like the judge today mentioned the Florida properties, like in Florida states, getting state funding and everything, right? And that essentially, in my mind's eye, kind of makes it so North Carolina can't really opine or judge based on Florida State's, media rights because of the state funding issue around the school and everything, which makes it kind of murky. So what kind of teeth does the North Carolina lawsuit have given that comment by the judge today?
I don't know. Kind of uncharted territory, and I don't. You might have to go into someone who's a little bit more of a historian with legal cases to know. Right now, we're sitting here. I think someone could land on either side of this and say, "I believe in this side," or "I believe in this side." And I guess if this continues on, it's going to have to end up in a federal court somewhere. You could end up with two different judgments entirely the way this is going. I mean, I would have thought if they were going to kind of give judicial expedience and kind of work together in this, that it would have happened right now. Like, because you would just do the motion to dismiss or motion to stay and boom, yeah, granted, it's done. So it's going to both go through full cases if this continues forward.
Follow up on that, Ute. Mike Smith says, funny when Florida judge was citing case law and gave two examples from North Carolina.
That is funny.
And it happened more than once. I thought it was actually more than two.
It's probably purposeful as well.
Absolutely.
You don't get to refute this one because it happened in your state.
Exactly. Okay, Ute, did you have a second question?
Yeah, that's the big thing. Like, originally, like when all this information came out before the clarification, it seemed like this lawsuit was just going to be held in the state of Florida. And then after additional clarification, it seems like we'll have dueling lawsuits that are continuing in the future and everything. But I think one of the big questions still is in the North Carolina, really, can you opine or can you rule on behalf of a Florida state funded entity? I think it's going to loom large. And I think that really does hurt the UNC authority, the North Carolina authority in that state. So that's something that's a question mark that I would have. Whereas, so it seems, in other words, it seems like the Florida lawsuit's going to have more teeth than the North Carolina lawsuit because of the state funding issue of UNC. To sum it up, that probably end up in like a federal court, like Immaculate mentioned. Is probably exactly where this thing's going eventually. But I think today was a big win for the Noles because it does make it so we're just not playing in North Carolina courts, and that favors the ACC clearly. So it was a huge power play for the Noles today.
Moen, did you have anything to follow up on that? I have a tweet I want to bring up next.
Yeah, I was going to say, if this winds up in the Supreme Court, I think they would have to fall on the rule of sovereign immunity, just the way the Supreme
States'
Court
rights,
compromised. Yeah.
States' rights versus entity rights.
And I don't know, real quick, I don't know if you guys knew, but Florida State actually already appealed the decisions on the motions to dismiss that were denied.
Yeah,
They've
they did
already
that yesterday,
appealed.
right?
No, it happened today during
Oh,
this.
okay.
They appealed to the state Supreme Court of North Carolina on motions. Not even like they haven't even had the main case. They're appealing the denied motions to the state Supreme Court, which is the court that expressly assigned this case to that judge and said be expedient with it. And so now it's being kicked at. To me, it felt extremely strategic. I mean, you're forcing the ACC to kind of divide their attention. They're having to watch this just like all the rest of us. Meanwhile, they're getting filed on already to go to the Supreme Court. So some strategery was going on today at the same time.
Really quick, let me get some shout outs to people that I haven't seen in a very long time. So we want to recognize them. Morris Simmons, who's a longtime member, glad to have him here, says ACC should run to the settlement table. Anybody disagree with that?
Been thinking that for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
it's
think
becoming more evident that it needs to happen.
absolutely. And then to follow that up, Pokes fan, who's been a member for quite a while too. Thank you very much for being
What's
back,
up?
you guys. We'd love to see you. It says, howdy guys. It's been a while. It has been a while. We've missed you, but we're glad you're back. Thanks for being here. And then I thought there was one more I want to get it out. Did I already do G Brew?
No.
Okay.
What's up, G
Bruce,
Brew?
he's been a minute too. A member for a while, says, put your money on Jordan Spieth at the Masters. Thank me later. Okay. Nothing like going really off topic. Are you guys okay with me bringing up a tweet?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, let's do this. So, while Immaculate was actually involved in the tit for tat, he followed this thing like I've never seen it, except for Doug Rowan. He was on top of that, and there was nothing to say about that at all. But Doug and this guy named David McKenzie, and I'm still not sure how reliable he is. He sent me his law firm credentials and stuff like that. He is a lawyer, has been doing it for a while. I don't know how they're going back and forth matters, but I wanted to go through this exchange with you guys and then talk about it. So at the end of the hearing, he says, this is David McKenzie, and let me post this link so everybody can get to the tweet itself. Forgot to do that. I apologize. I don't want to steal anybody's. There we go. Okay. David McKenzie. No, wrong one. This one. No, I lost. What the hell? Did it go away?
No, it's right there.
No,
Nope, that's not it.
Oh, my hell. Now I just lost it. All right.
Georgia Tech.
Georgia Tech. How about this comment? And I'll get the article. Go ahead, Moen.
Immaculate hasn't seen the new Georgia Tech shot glass.
Why don't you do that really quick? Well, I try to find.
Damn, that's a shot glass. That's like a whole drink glass. That's one hell of a shot, man. But nice cup.
Thank you.
All right, I found it again. I'm sorry, guys. I have no idea what just happened there. It was user error for sure. Let me bring me back here so I can control the show. All right, one more time. All right, so David McKenzie and Doug Rohan are going back and forth. I just wanted to go through this exchange really quick. David McKenzie, who's an ACC, he leans that way. If state of Florida sovereign immunity can excuse FSU from a contract at any time, why would anyone or any entity possibly enter into a contract with FSU, UF, USF, or UCF? And then there's others. There's there's a bunch of Florida universities anyway. So he's asking this open question: how could anybody contract with anybody in Florida? And Doug, in response, says this. He says, now, David, I've been cordial and even deferential up to now. This is where Doug's bringing out the big stick. He says, you know that it's not what is being litigated. That is disingenuous. Sovereign immunity does not excuse a state entity from being sued in breach of contract, nor is FSU claiming that. Number two, at best, FSU is using this argument to illustrate why the case should be heard in Florida. And since we both know that is a losing argument, it is all a red herring anyway. So no, making this argument does not make all Florida State universities unreliable contract parties. It is perfectly reasonable to have different opinions on the ultimate outcome, but that one was a tad too far. So first of all, did you guys happen to catch that? And two, what do you think about that sort of repartee there?
didn't see that one in particular. I know there's been kind of run in and out against some of the. There's a lot of lawyers jumping in on this. This has kind of turned into a lawyer battle, but it's also because it's such a popular and public legal case. It's a great opportunity for lawyers to get a little bit of name recognition. And, our buddy Doug is part of that too, but for good reason. I mean, it's a good time to show what you got and show your smarts and show how well you can look at these things and figure it out and just kind of become known. And some, like Doug, and some others, even on the ACC side, have done a very good job of it. And you kind of, sometimes when they respond to me, I'm just kind of like, I don't really think I want to get into a tit for tat with these guys. Because at some point in time, they're going to run a circle around me, even if that circle has nothing to do with the actual court case. And I've seen that too. And I'm like, these guys are lawyers. They know what they're doing in that regard. But it's gotten it gets a little chippy. But if you notice after that, the guy also gave him some props. So that's just attorneys being attorneys, man.
Absolutely.
It was funny to see that. But in terms of the main point being made there, I don't think it proves that at all about Florida State. And in fact, they're not just saying we're against the contract being the contract. It's the details around the contract that are the problem, not the contract itself, if that makes sense.
Like the execution.
And like how it came to be. So it's the kind of saying to future partners, well, we're a good partner. Just don't beep with us, don't, so I guess, if that makes them a bad partner, well, then that probably means the other party is a bad partner. So that's my thoughts on it when I see that is it only makes them a bad partner if the other party wants to be a bad partner. Does that make sense?
Sure.
So, that's it.
What do you think about that?
Yeah, a little bit different take from that. Like, it's a fun exchange. And Doug is right to say that is outside of the realm of the current discussion. But I think David's point is actually a bigger item that's going on here. And it's super relevant, actually, because it speaks to what kind of teeth do grant of rights have, right? Like if I'm in the state of Utah, my University of Utah Utes, in the Big 12 conference and the Big 12 grant of rights housed in Texas, then I can make the same argument that you've got no immunity. I've got sovereign immunity in the state of Utah and you're in Texas. What teeth do you have? Like, that's what we're really talking about. Like, is a grant of rights even enforceable going forward if you're not in the same state as the grant of right was filed? It's exactly what's being said. That's what wasn't said, but that's where we're going to. And that's super relevant, and we're going to get there. And I think this is a big take, but I think grant of rights are going to get completely blown up from this whole lawsuit. I think the idea of a grant of rights going away, and that teams will have a choice to move conference to conference. And then if it doesn't suit their best interest, they're going to move conferences, guys. That's how it works in the real world. You can't hold down a team like Florida State. Like, that's not how it works anywhere in U.S. society. It's just going to be that way. So grant of rights probably going to get blown up from this. That's where David was pointing to, and Doug kind of discounted that. But that's relevant.
May I?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sure.
I totally get how people might get that at this point in time, but I would reiterate something the judge said today, and that's this is not a ruling on the case itself. This is not saying the grant of rights is over. There's no value. It's just that this needs to be heard there. So I would just caution, like, yeah, you're right. Like, that could be a potential outcome of this, is that we find out grant of rights aren't as strong as we thought they were. This has largely been an assumption by everybody. Like, this is what it is. And you see it playing out with the ACC lawyers. I mean, that's a lot of their talking points is, this is a gore. This is what it does. Mm-hmm. But we're finding, and even the Florida State lawyers brought this up in the case, is that it only is in effect as long as we're in the conference. So depending upon the way this gets ruled, maybe gores were never that strong. And it was just kind of like a natural, everyone just stuck together because that was the best thing to do anyways. And if that's the case, then these gores aren't actually really necessary. And it was just kind of a make-believe control measure that wasn't really necessary. I don't know, just a thought for it. I mean, so it's not like a doomsday situation is what I'm saying.
That's my takeaway from both of these lawsuits is the next time we have Bob on is ask him exactly Ute's question. Do grant of rights, even if the ACC was to win at this point, everybody can see where the holes are in these contracts. The media contracts, Florida State has laid it bare. So it might be settled. We might not know what's going on in the background with Discovery, but I think the writing's on the wall with these things for sure. There's going to be more people challenging them. It would not surprise me in the least. The antitrust pacts, I thought, were kind of in place to stop those interstate issues, though, aren't they?
Well, I think in the future we're going to end up with 10,000-page grant of rights with private investigators making sure that all the T's and dots or everything's crossed by the right people at the right times. Because it's obvious from the grant of rights that the ACC has, it wasn't as strong as we've all been led to believe.
Right.
Yeah, that's very true. Ryan Willie, in the middle of all those answers, I appreciate him giving us $5 super chat. We're going to give him a sounder really quick, Moen.
Yeah, let's give him.
The
Well, this is
one.
apropos. This is apropos.
Okay.
Let's get ready to rumble!
All right, let's do a poll right now. Snap poll, Moen. Put out there, does everybody appreciate your new soundboard, or are you off the reservation? Put that out there really
Well,
quick.
they're just going to put I'm off the reservation because I'm off the reservation.
All right. He actually, a question to Immaculate says, Immaculate, do you think they settle before Discovery? Thank you, Ryan.
I feel like I'm betting on this one because I don't really feel comfortable with saying yes, but I definitely don't feel like the answer is no. Like it does feel like they should want to. I think ESPN has made it very clear they do not want their trade secrets coming out. They're the ones that wanted the ceiling. ACC is basically, I mean, they probably want it sealed too, but they're definitely doing that at ESPN's beckoning. So I think, if that's a problem, if it's really as big of a deal as they're saying, which, maybe it's not, and that's just their argument in court. But if it really is that big of a deal, I would think yes. At this point in time, ESPN, who has not opted in even yet for the ACC, we don't know what their plans are. They might say, you're just not worth this trouble. You better make good, make do, and have a settlement before our deal with you gets put out in public. And that's going to affect our renegotiation in the future. So I'm leaning towards yes, if that's fair.
Sure. Absolutely it is. Anybody else want to say something about that? Okay. We'll move right along then. I'm going to get to a bunch of comments because we're hot and heavy out in the comment section. I want to try to get to as many of these tonight as I can. I believe we've covered all the super chats, right, Moen? I think I'm caught up. Okay.
We're caught up.
Replica, one of our long-term members, love to have your Replica, says, the big difference I noticed is that Judge Cooper seemed more open to hearing both parties, while it felt like the North Carolina judge was given marching orders from the state to uphold the ACC suit. I would echo Replica's comment here. The North Carolina thing almost seems like it was already settled before they walked in the room. What do you guys think about that?
You could probably say that about both, depending upon your perspective. I actually don't necessarily believe that about either, but then again, I'm also kind of biased in that in terms of what I've been saying. So, there was some marching orders. This came straight from the state Supreme Court. They said do this with expediency, which means, you're clearing the docket, you're giving this time whenever it needs. So that there was some marching orders in terms of saying, I don't think anyone's saying how to rule, but there's maybe some implied. But it is what it is. I think that there's just natural biases on both sides, and
Home
especially
cooking, right?
laws.
Yeah.
I mean, I know people are calling that, and there is some truth to that, but it's also the difference of laws between the states.
Right.
They have different rules to play by, each judge. So.
Anybody else want
It
to
is.
say
It
anything
is
about
kind
that?
of it's kind of silly how like they went the way you would have thought they went though too in North Carolina and Florida, right?
I mean,
The
Florida State
decisions-
got a dismiss. They got a motion in North Carolina It doesn't look like the ACC is getting anything in Florida. So, if anything, someone could reasonably argue that North Carolina was more fair, which I wouldn't agree with, but they could by numbers.
We got a super chat from Jen Santee. Jen Knoll, 2013.
Jen.
How you doing, Jen? Good to see you. Are you going to be on? You need to send me a DM. Are we doing a show tomorrow night or not? You and Danielle and me. Let's do it. She says a super chat. She's also a member, by the way. Says, I don't know, beers, and alcohol.
Some champagne, pop some champagne.
Okay, thank you. Hey, loves, that's all of us. Why are you on? Is there something to talk about?
Congrats to Jen and all the FSU community. It was a big day today and
Yep.
really significant movements in this thing.
And they did a great job. Renegade Report has been doing fantastic. VC Knoll and over at Garnet and Old, they're also doing very well.
Yeah.
So I'm really happy. Even was it double fries, no slaw, right? He's doing. TJ Pittenger's doing great too. All of Florida State creators, we appreciate you. You guys are doing a great job, and we love supporting and following you. Anybody else want to add to Jen's comment here?
I'm not quite sure what she's talking about. I don't know if there's nothing really going on, Jen. We're just kind of out here hanging out. I just thought I'd come say hi to the boys. So,
well, Immaculate's been missed. I want to make sure everybody knows that we say that. Morris Simmons, again, we glad to have you back. Says the case is set for federal court with case laws, and ACC will lose. This was on the top of your mind today.
Oh my goodness! Like, let's talk about the ramifications here, okay? So if this thing does indeed go to federal court, we're talking about either a settlement between Florida State and the ACC, or the federal court actually ruling something, right? And the ACC is at a risk here of losing everything.
yes,
Like everything. Like, and they're not going to have a home cooking in North Carolina in a federal court, guys. So, like, that is a huge risk. And you know what Florida State's on the hook for? Nothing but legal fees. All of the risk is with the ACC if it goes to federal court. And seriously, all that pressure is on the ACC's backs. They have so much pressure to settle this thing because if they lose to Florida State, the conference is done immediately. Everyone's gone. It's done. So they have to settle, I think, and just for risk mitigation here. And I think that Florida State's going to get out for pretty dang cheaps, honestly, given the pressure, given these recent developments.
130 million.
You know, we
No
were saying
media
all along,
fee?
we were saying all along, like, I mean, we talked about like a month or two ago, like in like less than 100.
Yeah, we did.
Like 80, 90 million. We'll see.
Well,
They've got them by the balls right now.
I got to speak up for the ACC. The ACC has to do what it can to defend its other schools, so they're going to try and get as much money as they can out of it.
Sure.
So they're going to prolong this as long as they can to make billable hours for Florida State and Clemson and all that to try and protect Wake Forest and your Dukes and your Boston colleges of the world. So we can't look at it as ACC is the villain, Florida State's a hero. I don't think it's a situation that's tenable for either of them. I think they will settle, but I don't think it's a black and white an issue as people make it out to be.
I think it's really black and white. I'm cheering for one side to win.
Well, you might
I'm cheering
be,
for
but
Florida State to dominate and crush. That's what I want.
you might be. I mean, but regardless of that, you still have to look at it from the point of view of the ACC. They're not doing this to be vindictive. I know the lawyer stated today, making it sound like it was a vindictive measure. No, they have other universities they have to look out for and protect. So I just don't think it's a vindictive thing.
No, I don't think it's vindictive either. Yeah. Go ahead.
I agree with you. I've got zero sympathy though for these ACC schools. Happened to my conference, so screw that. Zero sympathy. Like, let it happen. It's going to happen anyway. Let her burn. Let it freaking burn. So I want to see Florida State win the suit. I want to see them go out for cheaps. I want to see the ACC go down. Yeah.
If I may, real quick,
point of view.
Go ahead.
I think what we've learned now from multiple cases is that these conferences do not have as deep a pockets for legal fees as these universities do. We saw that with the PAC situation where Washington State, the PAC lawyer was really bad. And this case, I think the ACC is better off, but there's still, the first lawyer that came on, man, he was rough. I don't know that guy has never been in a court before or not, but they just did not seem as prepared. They weren't ready for angles, whereas the Florida State lawyer looks like they had just said unlimited billable hours. We want you spending every minute of your time preparing for this. And he was just polished, ready, and it was just night and day difference. That there was a very, very good, very intelligent lawyer on the ACC side, but it just felt like they just didn't have as much money to give him really time to prepare for what the other side might bring. So I actually, on the opposite side, I don't think the ACC can do this. I mean, you think about it now, because of this case, the case in South Carolina is likely going to go forward. And there's even precedent for that judge now to not give up venue, or because that one was first. So why should he give up to North Carolina? And then if any other schools come into this, remember, ACC has to fight all of those fights plus the one in North Carolina. And they don't have as deep of pockets as any one single one of these universities. They cannot fight this fight, in my opinion, unless the other schools are funneling money in for this. They're going to go dry. I mean, that's a lot of cases in multiple states. If North Carolina, they come into it, what if Miami comes into it? What if, I don't know who else, or Virginia or whomever decides to come in and join in on this, Louisville? I think that they need to look at this and say that this case changes a lot what just happened. I don't think they got the guns to stand this fight like the schools do.
So, Steve-O, I'm going to answer your question. You said, why, question mark to me, why Bomber? And then your super chat here for $2 says, Ute, your contract expired, ACC's hasn't. So let Ute and I give us a second to reset why we said what we said. And by the way, we've been saying it for over a year. At least I have. Ute's a little later comer than I was, but now he's on board. The reason is because we have two universities in a conference that aren't in the P2. And that's a fact. They got the lowest payout in this latest negotiation. Yes, it'll go up if realignment happens in Florida State and whoever leads the ACC. But we want our conference to be the strongest possible. That's bottom line. Has nothing to do with personalities. It's not personal against any individual that's a graduate first school or anything like that. Your universities are fine. There's no problem with that. It's about, we want the Big 12 to be the strongest it could possibly be. And the best way to do that is to pick up the biggest brands out of the ACC. Bottom line, it's not personal. It's just business. Go ahead, you. What do you want to add to that?
It's just business, right? Like, I mean, this is going to happen regardless. Is it going to happen today? Is it going to happen in 2 years, 5 years, or 7 years? They're one out. So, like, trying to hold them in is just pointless. And so I think it's very similar to the Pac-12 situation. And I guess like this sympathy that I'd have for the other schools and stuff, because I was part of that and fractured, like, it's just how the freaking business goes. That's the business of college sports, college football. It is totally Darwinian, man. It is craziness and stuff. And like, I have accepted that. And I think a lot of other folks have accepted that. And it's hard to accept that when you get left behind, but that's just where we're going. And there's no way to stop it. So just accept it.
All right, really quick, let's do a reset. We got about, what is that, 42 minutes. We're going to end at the bottom of this next hour. So we're about 45 minutes away from being over. So I want to do a quick reset. Let's take off all these comments. There we go. Make sure you follow us all on Twitter. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube. Make sure you turn on your notifications to all of those things. Consider becoming a member of the Big 12 College Football Mafia family. That gives you benefits. Those benefits are you get to watch our short videos sooner than other people can get and be the smartest guy in the room at the water cooler tomorrow. That's a promise. You will be. And, we appreciate everybody being here on a Tuesday night. Just a quick reset to where we're at. We're talking Florida State, ACC, and the mess that these lawsuits are on. That's all we're talking about tonight. It's been fun to sort of doing a couple of these other things, but that's what we're focusing on tonight. So Immaculate, I got a question for you. If you could chart out where we're going to be in, let's say, a month, that gives time for both the North Carolina and and Florida State to progress a little bit. I know Florida State, the judge said something like 3 weeks he might give them for a refile and all that stuff. Where are we at in a month with these two lawsuits?
Well, I think they set another hearing for the 22nd 9:30 to finish up the motion to dismiss. Sounds like it's not going to be passed. He's not going to uphold the motion to dismiss, but that's coming. So that takes about a couple of weeks off of that. Kind of interested to see what goes on with the Supreme Court in North Carolina. Also, I do believe in that time we have Clemson coming in, so I really want to see.
Oh, I forgot about Clemson.
What
Right.
comes from the Clemson hearing? That might be the next domino. We might see in that time something break loose with North Carolina, whether it be the board just gives them the go ahead, or if, say, they have a deal for North Carolina State, we might see that get involved. In terms of predicting where this is, that's really tough. I'd like to think that we've proven out that everything is going much more quickly than you would normally think. So I tend to lean towards we will get some kind of a settlement, but I don't know if it's in the next month. I would say, I think from what's been talked about, it needs to be by June. So this month, next month, yeah, we might be in that window, but it might be 2 months. But once you get, that's when the next 3 schools come into the ACC. Is what we're talking about. Is when they become members. I think it's in June or July. Doesn't matter. Anyways, that's a big point to watch on, because that's 3 new votes into the ACC, and that removes some leverage. So a school like North Carolina wants out. Maybe North Carolina State wants to go with. If they get the wink and the nod, they are going to want to do this before that happens. So I do think within the next month, it is quite likely that we have some major movement happen on this front.
I have one correction. I do believe that Stanford and Cal are August, and SMU is July 1st, if I remember right. Or I might have those reversed. They were separated for a month there for whatever reason. Doesn't matter. But yeah, I appreciate your analysis. Really quick, before we go to anything else, we have another. What is this? This green thing that popped on my screen. We have the Big Lubbock has been a member for 3 months. Thank you very much, Lubbock. We appreciate you being here. Been a very valuable part of the Mafia family. His question is, can you... I'm getting better. Can UNC file with Miami and federal court in Florida so that these 2 schools can pick the federal court venue? Does it work that way, Immaculate?
I don't think so. I'm not sure why UNC, or in this case, what I think is going to happen, the North Carolina Board of Governors, I don't know why they'd file in Florida. That would be odd. For a Florida school to do so, that's natural. For them to do so, I don't think so. If I think what they're thinking about, that's a federal court move to try to bring it all together into a federal court. And then maybe once it goes to a federal court, then other schools can jump on board. Maybe not. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's when you might see some heavy duty merging happen, is once a federal court gets involved. Then that becomes much easier.
Moen, Moen or you? Do you guys have any follow up on that?
Go ahead, Moen.
Yeah, I don't understand why you would do that, because basically at that point you're saying we were wrong in our first filing.
That's true.
We filed in North Carolina, but now we want to file in Florida under the federal court in Florida. You're basically saying our entire argument of the first lawsuit was wrong.
I think he was saying University of North Carolina, though, not ACC.
Yeah, it was a UNC.
Okay.
Filing against the ACC.
Like in the state. So they're...
Right, but I don't think that they could file in a federal court.
No. I think he was talking kind of the same way that we've seen so far, is filing at a Florida Superior Court style.
You could, but then you're going to run into the same issue. North Carolina is in North Carolina.
Yeah.
The property is in North Carolina.
Yeah,
so.
Exactly. Right. It didn't... I get what they're trying to do. They're thinking about combining and doing all that, but that's probably more of when it goes federal. Until then, they're going to have to file in their own state. they could file a brief of support. I think that's what they call it. Say if someone else files, they can then file a brief of support, but that doesn't make you a party to the lawsuit.
Ute, any follow-up?
I just to change the topic a little bit, the wheels are spinning over here. So Florida State indeed does settle. Let's go down this path for a sec, guys. If Florida State settles, let's keep the numbers small, clean. Just say $100 million, okay? They get out everything, $100 million. It can be more, it could be less. What does that, say that happens over the next couple of months, like we're talking about, could actually happen here. Like, what happens freaking next? Like, if you're Clemson and you're trying to get out too, precedence is set, say at $100 million figure and stuff. Like, is that number going to be higher or lower than Florida State? Say that UNC wants to get out, is that going to be higher or lower than Florida State? I mean, I think it's going to get a little wacky based on settlement negotiations, based on your own value to the conference. It could be higher or lower than Florida State's number. It's just going to get bizarro. So, again, it's going to get wacky. If that happens, like you watch it and stuff, the settlement number is going to be different. It's not going to be a clean number for everybody who wants to get out.
Mullen, what do you think about that? What do you think the amount is and what happens?
I still think the amount is at least 175 to 200 million.
Okay.
And that's for all schools, all parties that want to leave.
So you think everyone's paying the same dollar amount?
I think so. I think that's, the quickest and easiest way is the way that'll happen. This will be the figure. This will be the figure presented to everybody who wants out. Everybody has certain, you got to pay it right up front. See ya. And then we're going to take that money. We're going to whack it up among the schools that stick around and pay that to them on a yearly basis to make sure that keeps.
What about the
their
comment
number up.
today that Florida State and the judge broached about like FSU's estimated media value around 300 million? You remember hearing that today?
Yeah.
So obviously Florida State has its own view of its own media rights. And every school probably has their own view of how much their media rights are worth to the conference. And the conference has that too. I'm thinking that actually it's going to be different dollar amounts based
for
on
each
how much
school
media right for each school, how much media rights you bring to the conference. So for NC State's going to be lower if they got out because they bring a lot less in media rights, whereas Clemson's going to be expensive. UNC is going to be expensive. But it could get just real wacky, guys. Like, if this breaks, if the settlement happens soon, you watch.
Immaculate, what do you think?
I remember a while back when we were throwing these numbers out, I kind of thought the way things would work out, you might see a number as low as 100 million or less. And that was because I was thinking there might be 10 or more schools. And so when that's like $1 billion being split between so many schools, that don't get caught in the, missing the forest for the trees type of a situation. That's a lot of money. And, but if this is going to be a smaller amount of schools and a quicker amount of time of getting there, then I'm starting to go a little bit higher. We might, 150. I mean, it's just kind of throwing out a guess, but I do believe it's going to rise up above what I talked about before. If we're only talking about 2 or 3 or 4 schools, I could see them being more. Now, then there might be a second deal later because that's going to cause a renegotiation with ESPN. That's going to be reevaluated, which means numbers could go down. So you might have another round of exits, and that would be a lower cost, I would think. So that might have swapped a little bit. I think the first number we see, though, I'm just going to go 150. Want a number?
Okay. Really quick, Greg Flugar, the Godfather himself, is in the house, and I just had his comment and I lost it. Give me 1 second. I want to answer that question too because I didn't get a chance. There it is. Thank you. Here's Greg's comment. Thanks for being here, Greg. You did a great job tonight. Can I just tip my hat? I was so impressed by your work.
It's a marathon.
Kurt Gowdy would have been very, very pleased with your effort. I promise. His comment says UNC, University of North Carolina, Board of Trustees member can't even go to the bathroom without first asking for UNC Systems Board of Governors for the key. Interesting situation for UNC Chapel Hill. Their Board of Trustees is stripped of all power. Yeah, it's been demoted for sure. Do you guys have any comments to follow up on that? It's flat out true.
And that really highlights the difference between states. of how these situations work. The Board of Trustees has control over Florida State, but when you get into North Carolina, they have a much larger system, and that has a Board of Governors that works over all of them. So there is a Board of Trustees for North Carolina, but they don't do things on this level. That is through the Board of Governors. So that's why North Carolina State has that kind of power in this situation, why that matters. People are looking and going, well, they don't have the value for the SEC. Yes, but if it's both or nothing, then you have to start to look at how can we make both work. And that's why I think, the BOG is in such a position of power there to help North Carolina State, and why we might see a combination of those two schools.
Anybody
that's
else?
all. I've got a view. It's different, right? Like when crap hits the fan, crap is hitting the fan right now.
Mm-hmm.
And if FSU gets out in the settlement here, I don't care how strong your local government is. Like when crap hits the fan, things change. And crap is hitting the fan. It's going to hit the fan in North Carolina. And just like Oklahoma, just like Oregon, just like California, just like Washington, the same freaking thing is going to happen. Like the better, more valuable school is going to move to P2, the better conference, and the lesser value school is going to move elsewhere. North Carolina State can't piggyback on UNC. I just don't see the value there for both of them. Like, I don't think North Carolina is so valuable that it warrants entry of two teams in the conference. Why does the SEC need to do that? That's great to have North Carolina, but they don't need them. The SEC just added Texas and Oklahoma. Why is North Carolina so valuable when you've got Texas and Oklahoma in the house? Why would you take on North Carolina State and dilute your future shares down the line of all your existing conference members? From a financial standpoint, it makes zero sense. And so when crap hits the fan and things are changing here, then I think it's going to get more clear, and it's going to be a math problem in the state of North Carolina. And simply, hey, UNC is going to go to the SEC, and NC State's probably going to the Big 12. Like, I just think it's that simple. Like, it's great and stuff. It can be strong and everything until crap hits the fan. Things change. It's going to be a fire drill.
Let me really quick. We have 3 super chats, really strong ones I want to get to, but I want to answer the question and then follow up with what you just said. I think the amount originally I said 80 to 120 million. I'm going to stick with that number. I think Florida. I'm sorry, the ACC just looks extremely weak, but what do I know? I'm just betting like I do on blackjack in Vegas. So that's not that big of a deal, that amount. But to follow up on what you said, I think the SEC, if they could, they would stay pat. The only reason they would take anybody on is a bit of a defensive move, which would be the North Carolina ad. The NC State deal, I've said from the beginning, I don't think they carry the value, just like Virginia Tech. I don't think would with Virginia. So, but these are all, good opinions. Everybody's got, we've all got our really good opinions, and I think it's really important that we say them. Moen, did you want to say anything on that?
Yeah, I appreciate the sentiment, Greg. I don't quite agree with the analogy. I think it'd be funnier if you said they can't fart without asking the Board of Governors which way to lean. I think that would be a much funnier punchline to that.
He's being nice.
I know he's being nice, but I think it's funnier.
Okay. Sorry. All right. Let's get to 3 super chats. We got these one after the other. Our Web, $5. Thank you very much, Our Web. Good to see you. It's been a minute. See how rated
There we go.
He says, guys, keep in mind Florida is in the 11th federal district and North Carolina is in the 4th district, kind of like a conservative not filing in the 9th district. It's true. Mm-hmm. The top end of all these suits, if they go to the circuit, U.S. Circuit judges, top one is SCOTUS. Supreme Court of the United States is the tip of the spear. Doug Rohan said that's the destination if the whole thing plays out. It's crazy where it could end up.
It makes a lot. That's a really good point, though, because even if you are playing and it's going to go to the federal court eventually, this also means that they're playing for a different federal district, like down the road.
Right.
Whatever one is proven or comes about to be, and maybe some of the other schools actually want Florida's 11th federal district instead of the North Carolina's 4th district. Don't know. I hadn't really contemplated thinking that far ahead, but he could be right that they might be thinking that far ahead.
Anybody else want to comment on that? I've got a couple more super chats to get to.
Yeah, so speaking of this too, what's the risk of Florida State playing this out, guys? Like, I know they want to get into the Big Ten or the SEC sooner than later and everything, but like, if it's going to be the difference between $200 million or $300 million and $100 million, isn't it worth waiting 6 months, 9 months, a year?
Yes.
Like, yeah,
Yes,
like,
it
I mean, they don't have, I mean, I get that they want out, but they can be smart about this too, strategically and financially too. And like, as time goes by, the pressure builds and builds and builds and builds, and that number gets lower and lower and lower. That ESPN contract, it's not going to be renewed. So I just don't see why Florida State's necessarily in a hurry about this. And like, so they can play this out. I mean, Florida State could even let it go to the Supreme Court and rule. Maybe that takes a year and a half, but maybe they get out for free.
Yep.
I'm serious. Like,
to a degree, yes, but they're making plans to get out. Like
they are
this year, and to be in a different conference for next year. So you're absolutely right, but for whatever reason, they want to go quick. It seems.
Yeah, there's a cost benefit analysis with that too. That I'm sure Florida State's really broken out deep and everything on really how much they're willing to pay today and everything. But like that, given the recent developments, given today's development, they might want to play it out for a little longer because that number is going to be shrinking. That settlement number.
The cost benefit analysis, even if they get $40 or $50 million in legal fees, they'd be paid for in 2 years of rights fees if they're in the Big Ten.
Right.
Paid for, free and clear. And then everything after that is gravy.
Yep. There's a lot that goes into it and everything. Yeah.
Moen, did you want to tag anything there before I move on?
Yeah, just so everybody's aware, the Supreme Court doesn't have to hear the case. They can just kick it right back down to the appellate. So don't automatically assume that SCOTUS has to hear every case in front of them. They don't. It's a very, 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 very small percent of cases that get sent to the Supreme Court. That I
just to clarify, you said SCOTUS to be like the SCOTA NC. It's just the state one. It's not the actual U.S. Supreme Court.
Right, but I'm talking about if they elevated it to a federal.
To the federal.
Court.
If they went federal.
Oh yeah.
God,
yeah. Could you imagine this on the Supreme Court docket?
That would be awesome. I love it. Let's do it.
I mean,
so Moen,
I can't even think about that right now. That's crazy.
Steve-O for $2 gives us a super chat. Moen, any chance Big tells FSU you aren't worth it?
Absolutely zero. They need the market. They need the brand.
Moving right along. Kerry Go Knowles, another $10 super chat. Thank you very much, Kerry. We appreciate you being here.
Let him cook. Let him cook now. Let him cook. I said let him cook.
All right.
Kerry's been with it all day long too, by the way. So
he was over on
he's
THC.
marathoning as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He's loving life right now. It's a good day to be Kerry in the nose.
Kerry says, "What's up, guys? Great day for Florida State. Yippee!" I would agree with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're supporters of Florida State. Well, most of us. Immaculate are a supporter of Florida State.
I mean, I want to see him in the Big Ten in that regard. Yes.
There you go.
There we go.
That's fair. That's all I meant.
Yep.
Sergeant Pickles, another super chat for $5 says, "ACC Tanic has struck the proverbial iceberg. Can't wait for the Stanford, Cal, SMU, Duke starting quartet to play as she goes under." Wow. Calling in the Titanic.
Yeah,
you ex-Pac guys, you guys are brutal.
Do you have a sounder for that one, Moen?
Game showtime.
Greg's another comment here says UNC Board of Governors chair is a major booster of North Carolina State. They are really interbreeded in that state for sure. There's no doubt about it. Yeah,
I think
Greg has a perfect track record with these things. Like he does. Like Greg is nails with the sources and everything. And I bet I bet North Carolina State's probably coming along. I just think that when crap hits, things might change a little bit. But
you could be right. I mean, you might be right.
Carson, it's been a minute. Good to see you. I'm glad you're here. It's been a while since we've seen you. He says a super chat for $5 saying if disclosure is rough for ACC, FSU can leverage it to get 8 votes to break the conference. Okay, Immaculate, I know you're on top of this one too. Explain to everybody how the disillusion of the ACC isn't necessarily the cure-all for all of these problems and having less money to pay to different entities.
Well, in my opinion, the dissolution vote, which we've talked about plenty of times in the past as being a possibility, always carries with it the flip side of that coin, which is, remember, you could be held liable for damages. Like if you just vote and dissolve the conference and these other schools were used to getting that money and also now it's gone, I would assume that they're going to sue you. Whether they win or not, I have no idea. But that's a risk that comes with it. Like it's not just, okay, we're out of the conference, and that sucks. We got to find a new home. It's the other schools who don't are probably going to sue you for damages. And that's a lot of money when you start adding that up. So I'm not a big fan of the dissolution vote. To me, it's more of a threat. Like we have the numbers to do this. It's like the nuclear option. You don't ever want to go there because it's just bad all around, but it's your threat. So that's what I would compare the dissolution threat to. Is it's the threat to, launch the nuclear missile, so to speak.
Anybody else want to speak on that one? Okay. All right. Let's get to some more chats that have been sitting for a while. We appreciate everybody being here. We're an hour and 15 minutes in almost. We appreciate everybody being here. Make sure you follow us all on Twitter and subscribe on YouTube. Give us a thumbs up. Leave us a comment or suggestion. Lots of people tell people to do that in the comments. We appreciate that. And then turn on your notifications so you know when our next show is going to be on. Mike Smith, one of our members, says, did I hear correctly that FSU was reading part of the contract or bylaws that was the basis for Clemson's case? I didn't hear that. Did anybody hear that?
I know they mentioned Clemson. I don't know that they read any bylaws or anything like that in regards to it, but they might have. It was 8 hours long.
I know.
I started the second half and I had to go back and listen to the first half. So
right. Yeah.
I remember a part where it was brought up that Clemson, it was in their filings, and I think it had to do, and it had to do with, I'm talking about that Florida State was not invited to be part of that at all. I think so. When they were naming Clemson, they were actually talking about how Florida State was not invited to be part of that meeting. And so they're saying that once again, like some of their rights or whatever were, not being part of that. So it was just part of a larger argument. I don't know if there was ever actually anything about Clemson. It was just using what was said at that time, saying that, hey, we weren't even invited to be part of that. So,
well, they also did bring up the argument that Clemson made that once you're no longer a member of the ACC.
Oh yeah.
They did mention that. I do know that they mentioned that. So
that was a
maybe
big part of the argument. That's what they're saying is once we leave the Gore, and that then goes into what Wild Ute's saying is that becomes an attack on the Gore, the institution of a Gore itself. Is that if you leave and it no longer matters, then it never mattered in the first place. And that's the threat. And once again, it's kind of a nuclear option.
I think this has a chance to get up to the Supreme Court because of this contract law dispute we're talking about. Because if it's applicable to the Gore, given the different state funding and everything with state agencies, schools, then it's applicable in the commercial side too. And like, if this hasn't been heard, then I think it will be heard. It's a big enough deal and stuff. That sovereign immunity claim is a big enough deal to actually be opined at the highest level. So that could be where we're going with this one, guys.
I would agree with that 100%. Illini Ted has been a member for a month. Thank you, Illini Ted. It's great to have you here. How has the ACC not learned from the Pac and Big 12 that an innovative leader is key? They need to replace Phillips or let him lead them into the G5. That's pretty harsh, Illini Ted.
Yeah,
Anybody
he just
wanna
signed a
comment on that?
contract extension, so
He
you're gonna
did.
have to pay him tens of millions of dollars to go away.
Yeah, I don't know. It's pretty rough, I think. That's being hard on them, Ted.
We'll see where they end up at, though. I mean, it might be bad, or maybe he pulls something out of a pocket. We'll see.
It's possible. Another comment here from King Spleen. The Gore is for members so the conference can bundle packages to sell to media companies. The exit fee is to keep them in the conference. I don't think Gores are going away.
Yeah, that's the conversation at hand here, and
Got to get
we're
Bob
talking
on
about the
again.
legality of
Yeah.
a grant of rights for a public school in a different state. That's what we're talking about. Can
Agreed.
you bind a public school in a different state that's getting state funds? Do you have the authority to bind them in the future through a contract?
I think what they really want to prove, though, isn't that the gore itself is bad, but it's the behavior of the ACC in getting that, and then also how the deal that was made between the ACC and ESPN was not fulfilled, so consideration wasn't met. So they're going more along lines of why the contract is unenforceable, more so than saying this kind of contract just doesn't have any power. That's why them saying, "Oh, we could just leave and it no longer matters," kind of was shocking and surprising, because that does what you're saying. So
Yeah.
I don't know. That kind of came out of left field, and if that's true, then wow. But up until today, really, it seemed more like it was about proving that this particular contract had some fraudulent terms or some unenforceable means to it.
Really quick before we move on, we're about 15 minutes left in the show. We appreciate everybody being here. You can see down at the bottom of our screen right now, the banner that's running there covers our new Discord server. I'm also going to put the Discord server link in the comment section. You guys can click on that, go directly to it. Rock and Rant is our current super moderator on that, and he enjoys interfacing with people. We're like tomorrow night, I will be doing an after show on that. Can't do it tonight. I have some things right after the show going on, but we're going to try to do after shows, after as many shows as we can in Discord. So we encourage you to sign up. It doesn't cost you anything. It takes 2 or 3 minutes to get your email set up and whatnot. And join the conversation offline. We have people now talking college football 24 hours a day in our Discord server. They're talking to us direct, and we're answering questions. The conversations are so much better than they were on Twitter. And so we stepped up. So I encourage you to click on that Discord link, become of the Mafia Discord family, and we'll go from there.
Do you think that Clemson's grinning today? Is Clemson grinning today, given this? How does this impact Clemson's lawsuit? Immaculate?
Well, I think it empowers them. If the Florida State judge had basically passed these motions, like to dismiss, saying, judicial expedience, they went first, it should go there, that becomes an easy precedent now for the the South Carolina judge to kind of go along with, instead of going against two courts. Because if Florida State had gone the other direction, they'd be going against that court and the North Carolina court and whatever they want to say. But now with us having 1 versus 1, that court can come into play and pick their side. And whatever side they pick becomes the overwhelming side. So I think it's drastically changed it, and it is very much empowered whatever that South Carolina court is to do what they want to do.
I would also like to follow up with that, saying that Clemson, they're still waiting a little bit. They came in late to the party, but they're taking their time with their stuff too, because they're in a different state. They might not have the same strength in their state court that Florida does. Does anybody know, does South Carolina have a sunshine law?
I do not know.
Because Florida's is crazy good. So, and that's what they leaned on today quite a bit. And a reminder for everybody, the Discord link is also in the comment section. Sorry, it's in the description of the video on the College Football Mafia main page. So every time you see one of our shows, you'll have that Discord link in the bottom of that, and that'll take you to it as well. All right. Before I go to any more comments, do you guys have anything else you want to say before I get to another one?
Let's jump in the comments.
All right, let's do it. Jamie Thornton, very, very smart, out in front of all this stuff. Miss Arkansas, great to have you here, Jamie. The ACC has a bigger problem. Why hasn't ESPN renewed that 2027 option? Well, what will ESPN pay for no FSU plus Clemson? It sure won't be the same price, and everyone else is making less. The ACC is like, what do you think about that?
It's true story. I mean, if you're the ESPN one, you probably don't want to affect this by saying you're opting out, because now someone might point at them and saying you're partly responsible for this.
Right.
But also at the same time, you're not if you're not going to opt in, but you still want to have some dealings with whatever's left of the ACC, you're going to renegotiate that when they're at a lower value. You're not going to do that while they still have all the value. So you're waiting for people to go. So if people are wondering, like, how does this get worked out? Well, ESPN money might work it out. One, if they lower that contract significantly, that's money they could maybe pass over and pay someone to join the SEC. There's a lot of angles to this, but we'll see how it goes. It's a little complicated right now, but definitely.
Think about this, guys. So the Pac-12, they got a $30 million offer from ESPN with Washington and Oregon in-house, right? That was a year ago. We're still in the same type of really bad media contract environment, still suppressed. Like if the Pac-12 got $30 million offer, and the Big 12 took that deal, what in the world is the ACC going to get with that Florida State, Clemson, when your top school is Virginia Tech?
Right.
Like, let's be like, if it's 30 million with Oregon and Washington and Utah and Stanford and everybody else in that conference, Arizona State, Arizona, what in the world is that number going to be? Like, it's going to be really shockingly low, probably less than $20 million a year. Can like the exit fee money bridge that? Possibly.
A little bit. A little.
Depends on how much to get out for at the settlement amount, right? What comes down to that. But it's fascinating to see, and it's a horrible time to be negotiating a TV media deal right now for a depleted ACC.
Anybody else?
Nailed it.
Okay. I like this comment we just got from Johnny Bard, who's one of our latest and greatest on Discord. Appreciate you being there, Johnny. Says this channel is great, especially since Marvel self-destructed.
I guess we're providing some entertainment there. That's nice.
I like that.
Go,
That's good.
Nice.
I'll take that comparison any day of the week. Me versus the echo chamber. FSU won by a landslide today. Fairly. The judge cited patent case law to support his ruling. I did find that interesting. They were doing patent case law to talk about a media contract. Did you guys find that sort of jarring at all?
I mean, we're talking about IP. We're talking about, the rights. I actually thought it was a fair comparison. I just found it striking about how much explanation this judge went into.
Right.
Compared to North Carolina. I mean, it's sometimes people are like, oh, he looks disorganized, but it's like, well, that's because he brought a lot to the table. Like literally, he was surrounded in information and books and all the cases that he was bringing in for his explanation. That's why he handled this a lot differently. This was more like a mediation. He at times was making arguments for both parties. Like when he was talking to Florida State, I felt that he was doing a better job of arguing the point of the ACC at times than the ACC lawyers were. And then the opposite. He seemed like the best lawyer for the FSU during much of what the ACC was doing. I mean, FSU lawyers didn't get to speak till the afternoon.
Yep.
So that was the big difference, was just how active the judge was in this case.
Very
How many
good.
pieces of paper did he have on his desk, too? Seriously,
Dude, I
that guy
couldn't
was
even
just
begin to count.
rummaging around
You
all day.
saw him just
Well, and he
like,
said he doesn't have a court attendant or whatever they call that. That's crazy to me.
Maybe he likes a little bit of controlled chaos in his life, and I don't know.
I heard that. I'm like, there's no way that can be a good thing. He has a reporter, but he doesn't have a clerk. Is who he was looking for. I found that was really interesting. Steve A says, I see 4 teams leaving and the ACC and adding, 4 teams leaving and ACC adding Oregon State, Washington State, Tulane and Memphis and UConn and USF. That's a total of 6 schools. Ute, what is their valuation if that happens?
UConn, I don't think is going anywhere, guys. I think UConn's perfectly contented to win national championships in basketball and not jump to a major conference. Because if UConn does jump to a major conference, all of a sudden they have to invest in the football program heavy, or else they get the pressure from the conference. So I don't think UConn's going anywhere. I think UConn's happy with where they're at. So I just don't see them making any realignment moves as far as some of the other schools. I think that USF's the only, like USF, Oregon State, and Wazoo seem like the most logical choices in a depleted ACC. And USF's the number one choice of all because you need to get back in Florida. So
Right.
those are the three.
Anybody else?
I'd put Tulane in there too.
Okay.
Tulane makes sense. Yeah.
What is the payout if all those schools change? The 4 leave that we pretty much assume the same 4. What is their value? 15, 20 million?
Maybe,
yeah, I
but
think
you gotta,
go ahead. Yeah.
yeah, you got to remember they're also going to have, depending on what this money payout is from everybody leaving. So you might say, well, they're only getting 15, 20 million, but if they're getting an extra 5, 10 million a year for the next 10 years, that might be enough for some of these schools to say, hey, we'll just write it out here.
Right.
The Big 12 might not get anything.
Yeah, in addition to that, Mo, and like that's a good point. And plus, like even say if Tulane jumped over to the ACC after, like they're not going to get a full payout, even at 15 million bucks. They're going to get like 10 million. So that money is going to go to the existing members too. Like, and so the existing members will make it as advantageous as possible. It's just not going to be like
What's the
Big 12
perception? What's the perception of the ACC though, that if they have 4 schools that are getting no money? Seriously, that could happen.
I mean,
Well,
look
what's
at
the
the ACC
perception?
right now.
Yeah. The perception now, they've got one team getting no money and another team getting, 2 teams getting half money.
30%. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. I just wondered if
So-
you guys thought it would go even worse, or if they're already in the dumper and it doesn't matter.
And like the ACC, like you've got 2 teams screaming, "Get me out of here!" doing everything,
Right.
kicking and screaming. Right there, it's not fun to be an ACC fan right now.
All right. Everybody, I hate to do it, but we're going to go short tonight. We're going to wrap it up. It's been a lively show. We appreciate everybody being here. We're going to do kind of final statements around. I'm going to start with you, Ute. What's your takeaway from today?
Congratulations, Florida State, Florida State Nation. Your settlement's going to be coming sooner than later, likely here. You're not going to be playing ball in North Carolina alone, so you're playing ball in the home court, at least on these dual lawsuits that are going to happen right here. So it's a big win to be a Knoll fan, and that Big Ten entry is in view. So big kudos to all you guys.
Moen.
I never thought my love of college football would lead me to listen to a court case for 8 hours.
Isn't that the truth? Reminds me of the OJ case. Who here watched all the OJ case? I did. Anyway, part of it. You guys were probably in what, high school? College?
I remember
High
it.
school?
I remember the case.
Okay. I wasn't knocking you. I was just curious.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, Immaculate, you got the final word.
Ooh, wow. I guess I would pull in the reins a little bit and remind folks these are just judgments on motions. This isn't even on either case. These are wins. People are going to wins, but that's to prove like how big the situation is. That this feels huge because it kind of was. But even in the big picture, it's that big. This is far from over unless we get a settlement. As it is, like the judge said, this doesn't mean he's going to rule for Florida State. He could still rule for North Carolina, and kind of the same situation in North Carolina. These were just motions for dismissal and motions to stay. So, big day, absolutely big day. But yeah, it's like we sat around and watched 8 hours of court TV for a judge talking about motions. I'm just sitting here going, I had big plans today. I ended up sitting watching this all day. It was supposed to be 90-minute hearing and turned into 7 hours.
It's supposed to be a cup of coffee, basically.
It's a bit of madness, and it's fun, but it's also just kind of like, what the hell is going on? Anyways, it was fun.
Everybody follow what Joaquin Morales has said here. He's a member saying, smash that like button. We appreciate everybody being here tonight. Sorry we're on an abbreviated schedule, but sometimes this happens, and we appreciate everybody sticking with us to the end night. Tomorrow night, it's going to be me and Jen Knoll. Jen Sandy's going to be joining tomorrow night, and I'm going to try to get Danielle Kelly in there, the lawyer extraordinaire, to talk more legalese of the ACC and the Florida State lawsuit. It should be a lot of fun, and who knows, we always go crazy. We might talk some other stuff tomorrow as well. I'm going to post that Discord link in the comment section one last time. After this show, go to Discord and join the conversation there. all four. Well, Immaculate, it could come back. We're very active on Discord. We want to invite everybody to do that with us. So we thank everybody for being here tonight. Stay out of trouble. Definitely, we didn't do Georgia Tech much tonight, so I guess you can probably drive tonight. But
Oh yeah.
I think Moen and Ute are a little bit on the back.
I didn't need Georgia Tech tonight. I just drank.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
You probably started well before the show started.
Yeah.
With all this going on.
I wanted to thank one more time Immaculate for coming back and giving us some expert analysis.
A lot of
tonight.
fun seeing you guys again.
And can't wait to do it again. Everybody else, have a great night. Stay out of trouble. And definitely follow us all on Twitter and hit us up. If you need anything, please let us know. The College Football Mafia Network is here for you and not for us. For everybody else, we want to say good night. Have a great evening, and we'll talk to you tomorrow. Peace out.